All right, to the CVOL we go. Listeners, remember, you can run these reports for yourselves. Just type CME and CVOL into whatever browser you're running out there, and then make sure you set your high-low range to 1 week if you're listening near the show date. And then I like the aggregates tab that shows you kind of every complex in aggregate, because we don't have time to go through literally every product that trades at CME. We like to look at the complexes as a whole. And if we do that, we're starting off in the Treasury yield vol this week at a 91, up about 2.1 points today. That's the only bright spot on the week. It's been down every other day this week, Treasury yield vol. So, an interesting week on the Treasury front. Of course, inflation numbers coming in not as hot as expected, then maybe a little worse than expected on the wholesale side. So a lot of inflation data to crunch this week. A Treasury yield vol having a range of right around 89 to the downside and 96.5 to the upside. So obviously hanging out towards the lower portion of that range right now. The actual price vol in Treasuries looking pretty anemic, 4.87, up 0.11 today. So another one where today is the only uptick we saw all week. The low for the week was 4.76, the high 5.21. Let's keep on rolling out to FX vol. Not usually a complex known as a bastion of volatility. That said, looks pretty spicy next to the Treasuries. It's at a 7.8, so nearly 3 points above where the Treasuries are hanging out right now. Unlike the Treasuries, it's been red all week. That is the low print for the week, the high 8.39, so coming in over half a point in FX vol this week, which is a big move when you're starting around an 8 vol. And then going down to the ag products, 19.61 is where we're hanging out at showtime. That is the low for the week, the high 20.64, so coming off 1.03 points on the week. So ag vol coming in a wee bit this week as well. Let's get to the metals, see what's cooking in the metals, listeners. 17 even. We don't see that very often in the CVOL, off about a quarter of a point today. That is the low print for the week, the high 20.93, so almost a 21. So metals vol coming in nearly 4 points this week. That is, they annihilated vol kind of across the board this week. Just look at VIX if you want to see a broad indication of vol getting taken to the woodshed. But obviously equity vol not alone in that annihilation. We talked about treasuries, we talked about FX and metals. 4 points is a lot in the metals vol, listeners. To the commodities we go. The aggregate commodities CVOL 33.68, off about 0.7 today. That is the low print for the week, the high 34.70. So aggregate commodities vol only, I say in air quotes, only coming in about a point, but still coming in at the low end of its range right now. And energy bucking the trend, a 50.42, coming in about a point today, but actually having a higher print earlier in the week of 51.45. So one of the few that is coming into showtime towards the higher end of its weekly range. The low was right around 49, so again, 50.42 today. So a lot of wild stuff on the vol front.